What's up, everybody? This is Bern.
And this is Ry, and you guys are listening to the Bodacious Rant. Thank you for joining us with Bern Ry. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Just catching up on some shows and movies and video games and whatnot.
Of course, I see you're rocking a very Thor-like haircut. Did your father have like a hand of clippers to cut your beautiful locks?
Oh, the only one to touch my locks is the goddess of haircuts herself. She came down from the heavens with her golden scissors and graced me with her presence and said, "Your hair shall look excellent from now on."
I love that scene in Thor, just, how he's all tough, like, I'm the god of thunder, you will not touch my beautiful hair. And it was a, epic Viking-looking hair. And then God rest Stanley, just with this saw of hand just coming in. I would be terrified, too, if this guy literally came at me with a gauntlet of shears and blades. Like, who wants that?
That's just my sentiment on any barber. Just, no, not my hair.
No. Speaking of Thor, actually, I'm excited just because, with May the 4th last week, basically Star Wars week last week, how Taika was announced that he will be directing Star Wars. Was it a Star Wars movie? Yeah, it was just one movie, right?
Just signed on to write and direct a Star Wars movie.
I'm psyched about that, just because, like I said, I personally love Thor Ragnarok. I know that was more positive, but there were a couple of people who weren't truly fans of it for whatever reason they had, and I understand that. But Taika's just a genius when it comes to films. I love especially Jojo Rabbit and What We Do in the Shadows. Both are solid, both which he acted in. So not only is he a great actor, but he's also a great director and writer. So I think we can expect big things for Star Wars to come out.
If anything, in these last few years, he's really cemented himself as one of the most well-rounded directors, I think, with, doing like smaller budget movies like you said, What We Do in the Shadows, and he also did some things like Hunt for the Wilder People, but then he's also shown that he can handle the big type of blockbuster when, he did the movie Thor Ragnarok, which is, one of my favorite Marvel movies, so, having someone talented like him on is definitely a positive for the Star Wars movies.
Exactly, yeah. He's, in my opinion, he saved Thor's trilogy just because, like Cap. I still love the Cap movies. Don't get me wrong. Those are my favorite trilogy of movies because they improved upon each other every one. I know that's debatable because people love Winter Soldier, but besides the point. No, he made Thor Ragnarok. I know it was a very humor based, but that's kind of what won his the positivity behind it, and it kind of rejuvenized Chris Hemsworth because I know I was reading something where he was just kind of tired of playing such a dark role. He was it was kind of droll for him. But when he met with Taika, he's like, oh, I loved it. This is exactly what I've been wanting to do for years now. So that's a good thing. And he's great with the actors that he works with. I think he gets a lot of great performances out of them. So I'm excited for whatever.
Yeah, and also he's also, not unfamiliar to the Star Wars universe, having, directed the last episode of The Mandalorian season 1.
Yeah, and he was IG-11, and he did I know he was one other character. I think he was in the Bounty Hunter episode. He was one of the other bounty hunters. But yeah, he's proven himself to be just well-rounded. And I was watching the gallery, the behind the scenes of the Mandalorian show they just released the second episode. I haven't seen it yet. But I liked how Jon Favreau was kind of saying, yeah, you're actually the heavy hitter a little bit. Like, you're the one who kind of knew what to do. And he was like, yeah, I mean, just because I've worked on small budgets and then big budget stuff, it sounded like it was an easier transition for him to do Mandalorian. And honestly, watching it kind of made me think, yeah, it's not, for movie directors, I feel like it'd be a lot harder to do directing an episode, because it's you're going from 1 hour and a half to maybe 2 to 3 hour films, and you're trying to condense a story all into one episode and make it cohesive with that. So that I can understand was,
Yeah, and then you're also juggling, what the other directors and writers did in the previous episodes, so you have to keep all of that into account as well as doing your own thing.
Yeah, no, Jon Favreau, he held that series down really well. Also connecting that not only is Taika directing a movie, but Mandalorian season 2 sounds like it's going to be a stacked season. It could bog it down, but I think it would be great just because Temuera Morrison, I believe that's how you say his name. He's the actor behind Jango Fett from his episode 2 Attack of the Clones, as well as Commander Cody, and basically the voice of all the clone troopers, because for those of you who haven't seen any of the Star Wars prequel trilogy or not know a whole lot about that, in episode 2 Attack of the Clones, he was introduced as Jango Fett, who, if you've seen the original movies, that's Boba Fett's father. But instead he rocks a blue and silver armor set. But he was the template to create the clone army, which then eventually transitioned to the stormtrooper army. But besides that, he is not. It was announced last week that he will be brought on to reappear as Boba Fett in The Mandalorian Season 2, so, which I thought will be interesting, because if you've seen Return of the Jedi, which I hope everybody has, he's seen that he falls into a sand pit and basically a giant beak known as the Sarlacc pit, and just
a giant butthole in the sand.
Originally it was like that, but it had, well, now you put that imagery in my head, you fiend.
Welcome everybody out there.
Okay, essentially, yes. Let's just go with Bernie said. It was a giant hole in the ground. I just thought of a joke. Anyways, I hate you, but yeah.
Star Wars is now ruined.
In Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett's already an accomplished, very famous bounty hunter, infamous really, and he gets eaten by the Sarlacc pit, which, he's presumed dead, but I know in the books and other comics over the years he's presumed to be alive and has much more adventures. So I'm excited to see this actor return for Mandalorian Season 2, just because he's not a true Mandalorian compared to the main character. We'll get into that. This is going to be definitely a much more in-depth conversation for when we talk about The Mandalorian in the next episode, when we go over Disney Plus shows. But I'm excited that it's going to be a stacked cameo. And then today as well, they just announced that Katie Sackhoff from Battlestar Galactica, she was in the movie Riddick, and she is the voice of a Star Wars Clone Wars character, Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, yeah.
Bo-Katan. Okay, she's another Mandalorian character. She's coming to appear in Mandalorian Season 2. So that got me excited, because I love her.
Pulling no punches for this new season.
No, they really aren't. If anything, because it sounds like because of the success of Season 1 story-wise, and, just reception, they're going all out for Season 2. So if they can keep that same level, storytelling and production, level, I think it's going to expand more upon it. Like I said, we'll talk about that another day. I'm just excited for Mandalorian Season 2 to come back. I want it back already.
Me too, man. Me too.
Yeah, I just remember, I actually held off on that show. I know people were like, have you watched it yet? Don't you have Disney Plus? I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm that kind of person that if a new show comes out, if I miss it, I'll wait on it for a while, either for years or months. It depends, on my frequency. But I started watching it, and man, I got hooked onto it hard. It was such a great show. Like I said, I can't wait for that. But yeah, let's dive into today's topics, which we're gonna talk about some of our favorite shows on Hulu, on the platforms Hulu and Amazon Prime, because there's a lot of good content. I know last episode we talked about some of our favorite stuff on Netflix, which was, basically the predecessor of all these other platforms in streaming, original shows and movies. And now Amazon and Hulu have really gained a lot of notoriety over the last couple of years, in my opinion, because they're releasing more content.
Yeah, they're definitely playing catch up, but they're coming out with some pretty good content. So it's exciting to see what they've done and where they're going to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm psyched. There's a couple shows I'm really excited for that are coming out with Season 2s. There's still a lot of stuff I got to watch, but I'm gonna let you take the lead on this, Bern. Why don't we dive into Amazon and see what shows you got for me that I not only myself but the crowd should check out.
All right, so for my first recommendation, it's definitely one of my favorite shows to come out in the last few years. It's the Amazon original, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Okay. And the basic premise is it takes place in the 1950s, New York, and it's about this lady, Mrs. Maisel, or Midge Maisel, as she's known in the show. She's just one of those, typical 1950s women, like the stereotype, mom, and she's like does so much to go out of her way to be like a perfect wife and stuff, and then basically the inciting incident is that she finds out that her husband is cheating on her, and then one night drunkenly stumbles onto a stand-up set and riffs for about like 1 or 2 minutes and absolutely kills. So after that, she starts to pursue a career in stand-up comedy, and the show's just basically about that, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of ads for it. I haven't gotten around to it. I know it's won a couple awards, I want to say, or at least I've seen it's being nominated for a lot of stuff when I watch the award shows. But I didn't really know what it was about, but that actually sounds pretty funny, pretty sad too. But are they short episodes? Like, is it easy to get into, or are they kind of long?
They're only like 3 seasons right now, and I believe there are only like 10-ish episodes a season, but they're all like about 40 minutes, like the hour-long episode. But, it breezes by so fast because you're having so much fun, with the characters and their interactions, and just, seeing what life was like in New York probably in the 1950s.
Yeah, that was a very not the 50s specifically, but just like after World War II, because when I took noir fiction in high school, it was kind of like the way of life kind of shifted back to like home life and stuff for a lot of like military and moms still today are there's a lot of people that still think moms should stay at home, provide for the family, all that good stuff. So that still sounds like it relates a lot to today's. So I'll definitely have to check that one out for sure. What's the lady's name who acts in it? I'm sorry.
The main character is played by Rachel Brosnahan. The only thing I've ever seen her in was just a brief stint in the House of Cards show on Netflix. Other than that, I haven't seen her in much, but she absolutely kills the role, and she's won an Emmy for the character, and as the show's won like a couple Emmys too for like writing and just the show itself. So, it's got the pedigree, and I agree 100% that it deserved all those accolades.
For sure. Okay. What's another one you got for me? So throw them on me.
Okay, so another one is another Amazon original. It's one like the first big one I would say that Amazon pushed through, which was the show Transparent with Jeffrey Tambor.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a show about this family, and this father comes out as trans in the show. He wants to be a woman, so it's just about that. His kids dealing with it. And just it tracks their lives as they go through this experience, and it feels like it's a pretty honest portrayal, and it's really well written and well acted. So I would say, if you're open to it, you should definitely give the show a shot because it's really well done.
I do love Jeffrey Tambor. Yeah, I love when he plays like he's very dried humor for a lot of his roles that he does. Like it's like he's either very sarcastic or he's just ridiculous. So I'll have to check that out. I didn't really know what it was about either. I didn't know if he was like transitioning into a woman or if he has been trans. I don't know. I never got around to it, but that sounds pretty solid to me. How many seasons is it? Is it same thing? Is it long episodes or are they on the shorter side?
Yeah, they're also around like hour-long episodes, and there's only 5 seasons. The show's has run its course now; it's all done, so you'll get the complete story if you start it and then finish it now. So it's all there, and I would say it's definitely worth checking out at least.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes it's better when the show's done, so that way you don't have to wait on any seasons to come out or anything like that. So, okay. Transparent, Mrs. Maisel. What else you got?
Another one I got is one that I know you have seen also is The Boys.
Yes. You joker. You got me. Well, why don't you tell everybody what it's about?
Well, it's based on a comic by Warren Ellis, who's wrote other things like Punisher, Warzone, and a multitude of a lot of really good stuff. But the basic premise is that in this world, there's a group of superheroes which is basically a rip off of the Justice League characters, but in its own like darker, more twisted version of them, where they're owned by a corporation, and a lot of the things they do is just for publicity, and they're a pretty corrupt group of individuals, and it's about this other group of non-power people, which are called the Boys, and just them trying to take them down for all the corruption they've done.
Yeah, I remember when that show came out, because I kind of heard about it, I think maybe like a month or two before. I just watched the trailer and I thought, holy crap, this actually looks pretty solid, just because it's that idea of, what if superheroes were in modern day? Like, because we have movies like Batman vs. Superman, Captain America Civil War, Spider-Man, Far From Home. Like, and I mentioned those movies specifically because they kind of talk about, like, the repercussions that these heroes can cause and, kind of like how they go through life, where this one's just literally like a TMZ version of superheroes. So that's how I'm going to put it.
A good way of putting it, actually.
I mean, because it's, like Bern said, it's just such a crazy show where heroes are more celebrities. They maybe there is one character, I forgot her name, Starlight or something like that, but she's a newer hero. I can't think of the actress's name off the top of my head, but she's another up and coming actor who's like kind of been in some stuff, but she's a pure-hearted person. It's actually got several storylines in it. It's got the Boys and their point of view, some of the heroes, in like part of that Justice League, they're kind of going through their own personal issues, and then one of the heroes that joins in, she has almost her own storyline, which I really like about it. I kind of like how everything ties itself together, especially towards the end. Like, it all makes much more sense, and it's got a fantastic crew of actors too. Like Carl Urban, he was my favorite. He's one of my favorite actors because he was in Lord of the Rings, Dredd. Oh my God, what else is? He's like I said,
he's in the new Star Trek movies.
The new Star Trek movies. He was Bones, exactly. And he can be serious, he can be hilarious, and he's a mix of everything. Dennis Quaid's son, he plays one of the main characters. Oh my God, what's his name again? Dennis Quaid's kid? What?
Jack Quaid.
Jack Quaid, yes. He's another great actor. I remember he was in the first Hunger Games. That, J Law, she shot an arrow at him and he just, he died. Well, like I said, everybody, that's definitely a show I would recommend absolutely. Like, if you haven't watched anything on Amazon, like I know I haven't watched a lot, that's one of those shows that makes that platform worth it alone. And season 2 is still coming out this year. I want to say maybe the summer, if not early fall, because that's around the time it came out last year. And it's such a crazy show. If someone says they see it coming, I call you a liar, because I did not. The ending had such a great twist. So
it does a really good job of swerving and taking you on this journey where you're like, I don't know what's happening.
Dude, it is, again, just, and also one footnote, I didn't think about this when I was talking about Netflix last week, but it is a very violent show. So if you are squeamish, or maybe you're just not into superhero violence, just violence in general, just tread lightly with it. That's all I have to say.
Well, they definitely show the more brutal side of the superheroes' powers than we've seen in other, more mainstream media.
Yeah, it gives me the heebie-jeebies thinking about some of those episodes, but let's move on. What else you got?
Speaking of shows that have some subject content, my next recommendation isn't an original to Amazon, but it is available to watch on that platform. It's the show Hannibal, which is based on the Hannibal Lecter character from movies like Silence of the Lambs, Hannibal, Red Dragon. So it's basically a prequel to those movies and takes place in like Minnesota, where this FBI analyst is like trying to track down the serial killer, and eventually he comes into contact with Hannibal, who at this point in time is a forensic psychiatrist. So it's pretty interesting how they're both like trying to investigate this murder, this very gruesome murders, while also Hannibal is playing mind games with the FBI analyst. So it's a nice like cat and mouse, a battle of wits, and also just a little sprinkle of gore here and there that I'm sure people will enjoy.
Yeah, I'd probably, okay, because I personally have my tolerance of violence. I like violence that if it makes sense, maybe even just a little gratuitous, but like I can't do Saw. Saw is a little too much of the stuff for me, but
Yeah, there is a fine line where it gets, where things can get into that torture porn, area, which is not my cup of tea either.
no, exactly. And then if I remember correctly, Mads Mikkelsen is Hannibal this time around, right?
Mikkelsen plays Hannibal, and what's his name? Hugh Dancy plays the main character, Will Graham, and then Lawrence Fishburne is in there too.
Oh, Lawrence Fishburne.
So it does have a pretty good cast of characters there.
Okay.
And I would say Mads Mikkelsen definitely rivals Anthony Hopkins for my favorite portrayal of Hannibal.
Well, Mads Mikkelsen, he's another great actor. Like the first one I saw him in was King Arthur with Clive Owen when that was around. I was thinking like, man, this guy is pretty badass in that movie. He died. And, that's besides.
He went down like a badass though.
He died.
And he was really good as the main villain, Le Chiffre, in the Casino Royale movie, the first
that was
of the
another
new
one.
movies.
Yeah, I liked him as Le Chiffre. I can't. I'm not a very good French speaker. Bonjour. That is pas. I try to like Johnny English, how he tries to talk French, like it's gibberish. But yeah, he's awesome.
Oh wait, no, that's Spanish. Hold on, that's the wrong thing.
Nine. No, that's just we're going to German now. We're covering all spans of Europe. But back to Mads, he's also risen really into. He's become such a more of a pop culture icon. Like he's been in like some video games already, especially Death Stranding, which came out last year, right?
He was, yeah, and then he was Jyn Erso's father in Rogue One.
Yeah.
He's definitely been like a lot more in the mainstream as of
which
late.
I'm fine with. I want to keep seeing more of Mads Mikkelsen. Can I think of a DC role or Marvel role yet? Not quite yet, but it's only a matter of time. Oh, actually, no, he wasn't. He wasn't Doctor Strange. What am I kidding? That's why I feel.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He was the villain, and I forgot about. Oh my God, Marvel, you sullen wench. Too many movies to think about.
You have all these great actors, and you kill them off so fast.
Yeah, that's the one. My only critique of Marvel is that they. My brother rewatched for Mother's Day, which I'll get before I continue. Happy Mother's Day to your mom and to everybody else's moms. I know it's a little late, but hopefully I'll have rockin' moms for that. But yeah, we were watching Guardians of the Galaxy, and I kept thinking, man, Ronan. I love James Gunn. I love what he's done with the trilogy so far because he has come back for the third one. But Marvel has another bad habit of just messing up the villains or just killing them off way too quick.
That's my complaint as well, but at least they do a good job when they're there.
Oh, no, absolutely. I'm still excited for Black Widow whenever that comes out sometime this year, but I digress. I'm sorry, good sir. Any other shows you got for me to check out on Amazon?
Yeah, so the last one that I have recommended for Amazon is the show Vikings.
Okay.
The History Channel show that you can find streaming on there, and then you can also find streaming on Hulu, which, it's a good segue because you can watch on either platform. But it's basically the show that shows you the account of the legend of Ragnar Lothbrok, who's a pretty prominent character in Viking lore, and just basically how him and his Vikings journeyed on to Europe, like Wessex and France and England. So it's just tracking that, all the characters. I would say it's a lot of the best parts of Game of Thrones, a lot of like good characters, plot twists, good action scenes. Just not a lot of the mythological stuff. Like there's no fantasy elements into it. It's more grounded approach. But I think it's really well done. The production design is great. All the actors like Travis Fimmel and Catherine Winnick do a really good job in their roles as the leads. And I mean, if you're looking for like a historical epic, or if you need something to scratch that Game of Thrones itch after it disappointed you, last year.
That'll be for the next episode. We'll talk about Game of Thrones the next one.
Then I say, this one's definitely one to check out.
I mean, I know. Real quick before I talk about my interest in Vikings, yeah, Game of Thrones, the last season. I know I shouldn't hate it because the last season, because there's other solid seasons, but man, the writers, they kind of messed up that show for me. I can't.
Go on for like an hour or two on just that alone.
We'll save that for the next one. But Vikings, I did not realize was that because well, I mean, History Channel usually has to be, based on history because it's a History Channel. I didn't realize it was actually like a true story. I thought it was more of like it's a show but has realistic, like historical stuff about Vikings, like how they worked and all that. So I didn't realize it was actually real characters. So
Yeah, for the most part, it's pretty historically accurate. And then if you look up the characters and their history, you'll see that the show does a good job of getting you to those points. I'm sure they take a lot of artistic liberties, as a lot of things do, but it definitely hits those historical points. So if you're like a history buff, you'll be like, okay, I'm not mad at this.
that's one thing I do. Like, not you get it. Cheeky. I make myself laugh. I have fun. That's kind of one thing I do notice that I'll have a habit of doing is like when I watch like a show like Hatfields and McCoys, which was also another history show, one of my favorites. I'll want to check like to see did this actually happen? Like how accurate is this? So, okay, I'll have to definitely check out Vikings. Any other shows or you got, or should I throw my little plate on there?
And that's all I got for Amazon, man. What do you got for me?
Not a lot. I want to be honest.
Okay, the episode's done, guys. Thank you for coming. Be sure to like, subscribe, join us for the next one.
Well, oh my god. I'm not that bad, but one show I will definitely, I recommend, not to maybe everybody, but I personally just finished it, was Carnival Row. That stars Orlando Bloom, Cara Delevingne?
Delevingne, yeah.
Delevingne, yes. Cara Delevingne. Another Game of Thrones alumni. She played the mother of the Sand Snakes. I don't remember the actress's name, but Pedro Pascal's wife in season 4 or 5? Season 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, she's in it. There's a good amount of like random actors you'll see and you'll kind of notice from like small things in it. But basically, it's a little hard for me to describe it because it's not based on like a real like place. The world is basically set like I would say Industrial Revolution era, where electricity is not quite there yet, so it's still like a lot of gas, like very steampunk. That specific.
Okay, so like a steampunk fantasy.
Yeah, essentially, it takes place in this world where there's two giant factions, the Burg and the Pact. The Pact I would kind of deem as like when in the beginning you kind of see them, they kind of reminiscent of like Russian, German soldiers maybe, and then the Burg, what I would say is the closest to like England, because the story is about this detective who Orlando Bloom plays. He's an old war vet, and he's trying to solve the murders of fairy creatures. Fairy with F-A-E, which is basically just, I had to look that up because I was listening with subtitles, because sometimes when it comes to like very like thick accents, like British, Australian, it's hard for me to watch it, so I'll put subtitles on. But basically, it's just all magical folks. So there's pixies, there's like troll-like characters in there. You kind of see in the background, little like kobolds. There's a lot of like fantasy involved in it. But he's trying to solve the murders of these fairies, why they're getting killed off, who's killing them, and it just turns into a whole very thriller, very mystery story. For those of you, if that's not a good enough definition, I would equate it to Penny Dreadful, like very Victorian horror, very gothic horror mixed with like some Game of Thrones, just because it has a very heavy political aspect to it in some scenes and some episodes, and where everybody's just trying to gain control of something or backstab each other. And I would also equate it to Bright, Will Smith's movie that we talked about on Netflix, where human beings live alongside of like fairy creatures and stuff like that. So it's not a bad show. Why I don't recommend to everybody is it can be a little slow. It tries to throw a lot in there, But if you're into fantasy, you like mystery, it's very adult. So it's got a decent amount of violence and some sex in it. So for those who are a little squeamish or don't approve of that, just essentially, yes, there's a lot of that in there. I would definitely say tread lightly with it, but it is still worth watching. It was a solid show. It kind of like how Vikings does that Game of Thrones itch for you. That's kind of what it reminded me of. So I'm glad I watched it. It's only 8 episodes, all around an hour, maybe a little bit under. So yeah, it's a quick binge. Season 2 has not come out yet, but once Season 2 does, I'm definitely gonna watch it. So I'm excited for that.
Cool. That sounds interesting. I'll check that out.
Yeah, and what I liked about it too is kind of seeing Orlando Bloom, because like I've always only seen him. The only movies I've really seen him in are Pirates of the Caribbean, because those were his.
Same. I only know him from those movies, and then Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven, I forgot about that. That one's a solid film, but it's kind of nice.
If anyone hasn't seen it, watch the director's cut. Don't watch the regular cut.
Yeah, don't. Sometimes the director's cut for a lot of movies is better, except for Suicide Squad. That actually did not make it better. I was disappointed by that.
Just more minutes of suck.
Yeah, and suckle up to God. I blame the studio on that, but that's besides nor here nor there. But I like seeing Orlando Bloom. His character is very complicated, where he tries to walk the line of being fair to humans and to fairy folk. Well, like standing up for them, but also he's about the law. And his actually, as the show goes on, you'll find out more about why he is the way he is. And it was a strong character show. So I really like that one. But yeah, like I said, that's about all I got for Amazon. I still need to watch Jack Ryan, Hannah, Hunters. I've heard a lot of good things about with Al Pacino. That's Jordan Peele's new show. So, yeah, I'm gonna
check in all those. I haven't seen those yet, but I definitely want to check all those out as well.
We will reconvene on the Amazon saga soon. But let's get on to Hulu, because there's a lot of content on there. Hulu is kind of like Netflix, where more so I would say like Netflix, where it has a lot more of shows that weren't native to it, but they kind of help the platform make it like they add on to its worth. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like they struck a deal with FX for some exclusivity on their shows. So those are basically the ones that I got for recommendations.
Absolutely, yeah. The FX shows are the reason why I definitely would. I still watch Hulu for rewatchability, because the shows that I'm going to talk about have a lot of rewatchability, in my opinion, or with me at least. I've rewatched them several times. So, and they have they just have a solid list of stuff to watch. So, but let's get started. I'll throw it back to you, Bern. Ball's in your court.
So for the first show on Hulu that I recommend is the show Legion, which was an FX show, and it is a show that's basically about this character from the X-Men comics known as Legion. And I just really like how the show is structured and how it's like put together. Without giving away too much, they give you the impression that this main character is mentally ill in a way, and that's the reasoning for voices in his head and a lot of the things that he sees. So it does a really good job of playing with your expectations of like, is this real, or is this like his powers, or is he just going crazy? It's pretty interesting how they decided to present that to the audience, and I feel it's worth recommending.
Despite all my critiques on the X-Men movies that, I still don't approve a lot of what they've done, but I will say what Fox they did succeed in, especially with X2, Days of Future Past, and Logan, is that, how the show is kind of revolving around the character Legion himself. That's also, Legion is not only just the title of the show, that is the character's name as well. So I just know that from like comics and from looking it up myself. But I love what FX and Fox has done, that mutants are still, it's deemed as like defective. Like they're not truly human, that it's like, you like that line in X2 where the mom asks, Bobby Drake, Iceman, like, have you tried not being a mutant? Like, it's like, it's not necessarily a thing, it's biology. Like, you can't change that. So from what it sounds like, I definitely need to check it out. I've been meaning to, I just haven't, but I kind of like how FX and Fox have just grounded that whole universe and really made it more of like, you know, how do you know what I mean? I can't explain it.
That I get you. Yeah, it seems that the X-Men property in itself, it always goes along best when it's works as both, you know, entertainment and as a commentary on, you know, certain like topics where, you know, like a lot of the movies they touch on prejudice and stuff. And this one I feel like it wraps it through the lens of mental illness, which I think is like a really good idea, and I think it's pretty presented very well for the most part.
Absolutely. As soon as I get done with Community, I think Legion's gonna be the first show I watch. Community's got me bad, man. I've been watching that. I know that's a Netflix show right now. I think it's also on Hulu too. So that's one thing Hulu does share a lot with Netflix. But again, we're going to continue with our list and you're going to see why Hulu is also worth it. So Legion, and what I like about FX that does take liberties with like, you know, what they can do on television. Is it pretty violent or is it more of like a psychological, like thriller kind of movie? Like this just makes you think.
They don't get too crazy with it. But, you know, it is pretty well done. I mean, obviously the budget is pretty limited for it being it on a TV show, but they use it pretty well and they get really creative with how they show you the action.
Okay. All right. I'll have to check that out. Like I said, that I've been meaning to watch it. You know, I know we talked about it a little bit a while ago. So as soon as I'm caught up with a show or two, I'm definitely hopping on the Legion train. What else you got for me, my friend?
All I got is the show Fargo, which is also an FX show. Same creator of Legion, Noah Hawley. He worked on both these shows. So you'll get a lot of the creativity in this show too, in a different way, where this show is a play on not necessarily the plot of the Fargo movie that came out like in the 90s, the Coen Brothers movie, but it captures that tone and that setting of the movie. So it just works on a different characters, you know, every season. There's 3 seasons currently, and you can basically count it as an anthology show where, you know, characters don't carry over from season to season. So, you know, you can basically kind of jump into any season you want. But they're all about the same things, you know, like really interesting stories about, you know, these people who are just like in this normal small town in you know, the northern part of America, like around Minnesota. But just, you know, them getting into really, really bad situations. Then, you know, so it's a crime drama, black comedy at the same time. So if either of those, then I would say the show will definitely, scratch that itch and entertain you.
Fantastic. Yeah, I remember when Fargo came out while we were in college. I watched the movie Fargo just to be like, you know what is this even about? Also, because I was thinking about This Is 40. Emma Paul Rudd said, "You ever see Fargo?" Yeah, you know, wood chipper. Because they're talking about how they're going to kill each other as a married couple when they get older. And it's like, oh yeah, I'd put you through the wood chippers. And she's like, I don't want to die by a wood chipper. And I thought, does that really happen? So when I was watching it, and spoiler alert, because the movie has been around 25 years now, yeah, some guy gets killed by a wood chipper. And that was an image. That was almost as haunting as Pulp Fiction. But I get that vibe from the show too, especially season 1 where it's like it all takes place in Fargo, where it's like, you know, how you put it the best, how simple, you know, average families get taught, or average people just get tossed into like a crime-ridden world or something, and that's always kind of like, you know,
like they make a particular decision that leads them down a totally messed up path, and it's really interesting to see how they deal with that and how that plays out, you know.
Yeah, that's one thing I kind of liked about the movie as well, is that it played on the fact of like, if you were thrown in the situation, how would you go about it? Like, it explores like what extent people will go to kind of out of curiosity, whatever means. So, I know Chris Rock is in the new season. Is that season 3 or that's 4? I forgot what's.
No, that is season 4, and that's currently delayed. Right now, but yeah, we can look forward to that in the next season whenever that comes out.
Well, I got time to watch those other seasons, so that's good. And anthology. Well, hurry up. What's the matter with you? You don't jump in front of me in a buffet line. Come on down. But no, honestly, some anthology series that's becoming a really good medium. Or actually, if you think about it, anthology those series kind of took a break in recent years. Like, I think they were very prominent, like with Fargo, True Detective, American Horror Story.
American Horror Story, yeah.
But now it's like you don't really see a whole lot of those, which isn't a bad thing, but it's kind of like interesting that it's a make or break situation, I think. Like it could either make the show really great or it's just adding on to, okay, this show's not worth watching. But
I mean, it really depends on the strength of the individual, episodes or seasons themselves, because if you're telling a different story every time, it's going to be harder for people to get invested in, than they would if it were just, more serialized. This is the character and this is them in their journey throughout these 1 or 2, 3 seasons,
Absolutely, yeah. That was kind of my problem with American Horror Story, is that, there were too many seasons. Like, I started getting into around Coven, which was, I think, season 3, so that was like the witch season. And that wasn't bad. That wasn't my favorite one, but even then, I never finished it, and it's just, after a certain point, like, there's too many stories to watch, and people tell me, oh, you should start here, no, you should start here. And I just figured, I'm good. I'll start off with something simple like Fargo, because that's only 3 seasons in. But okay, solid recommendation. So, just to recap, is it on the violent side, or is it pretty? Because I know it's crime ridden, so I don't know. I haven't really seen it.
Yeah, it would say it goes as far as the movie would go, which it is pretty violent, but the violence for the most part is pretty realistic. So I would say that if that realistic violence, is something that turns you off, you may want to stray away. But I don't think it's as explicit enough to really make someone uncomfortable as something like Hannibal would,
Okay, so no Quentin Tarantino blood spewing out of every wound, right?
No, people in the show have normal blood pressure.
Just think about Django. I just thought about that. Okay, Fargo, Legion. What else? What else we watching?
Another one I got is the show Atlanta, which is Donald Glover's show. He's he plays one of the characters in Community, Troy, and you probably also know him from his other name, Childish Gambino. So he's an actor / musician, and he's been around for a while. But this is his show, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's about his character, who's a college dropout, and he wants to manage his cousin, who is an up-and-coming, big-time underground rapper in, the city of Atlanta, and it just tracks their story.
Okay. Yeah, I know Dre, she's been getting on me to watch that show. Not a lot of people I know have really seen it, so that's probably why I never really got around to it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going under the radar, but I think it's very underrated, and I think more people should watch it.
The girl from Deadpool 2?
Yeah, Zazie Beetz, Brian Tyree Henry, and Lakeith Stanfield, who are also, pretty big up-and-comers right now.
Brian Henry is also. I like Brian Henry.
He's the cousin who's the rapper in the show.
Oh my god, I just realized half that cast was in Joker. That's crazy.
And it's really well done with, there's a lot of really, what you would refer to as, I guess, pocket episodes where, it doesn't affect the overall story, but it, just gives you this, half-hour journey. And they really play around with the format and the genre of, the show, where, on one time there'll be a really laugh out loud funny episode, and then the next episode would be almost like borderline horror, which is pretty interesting. It takes a lot of creative liberties, and I think it's all the better for it.
Well, now you're throwing all this content at me. I don't know what to watch. It's either Legion or Atlanta now, because that's what I loved about Community. Is that it's a show you should watch in order, but each episode's its own genre or it can go its own storyline. So. Okay, so I definitely see the appeal with that. I'll have to check that one out too. And after watching Community, I do love Donald Glover. He's hilarious.
Oh yeah, he's a really good actor, and his creative mind is on full display in Atlanta, and I think that shows you just how talented of a guy he is. And I mean, it's only two
Okay.
seasons, and you know, I think there's only like 10 episodes a season, and they're like half hours, so not much of
Only
a
2
commitment at
seasons,
all.
really?
Yeah, it's only 2 seasons as of right now.
Man, I did not realize that. I thought it was around for way longer. But okay, that's not a bad binge either then. All right, Atlanta, Fargo, Legion. What else? Let's keep going.
So my last one, and one of my all-time favorites, is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Ah, you son of a gun! I saw that coming, you joker. I do love Always Sunny. Oh my god, that show.
It's Rob McElhenney's show with him, Glenn Howerton, Charlie Day, Danny DeVito, Caitlin Olsen, and the way I describe the show is the anti-Friends.
That's the best way to put it. Like, and what he means by that, ladies and gentlemen, is that in Friends, how they all love each other and they get better looking over the years. This is the exact opposite. They're bound to each other because they hate each other. Also, I'm kind of half quoting Rob McElhenney himself because he was on Colbert's show and he was talking. He's like, yeah, that's where he got his inspiration from. Is from Friends.
Yeah, it's like what if the characters in Friends were just awful people and they just got into awful situations?
And they are the worst people, but that's why I love it because it's almost like karma hits them every time, but at the same time they get away with certain things. Like how do they live with themselves? This is the main question I ask myself. But yeah, like you said, it's the anti-Friends are a group of just friends that are kind of obligated to be with each other because nobody else wants to be friends with them. They own a bar in Philadelphia, and Danny DeVito, just because he's a billionaire, a millionaire, he just funds all their mishaps, all their misfortunes,
All their terrible ideas.
God, yeah, but that show just resonates with me because there's so many good episodes, and that's one of those shows too, like. You started watching in college, and I would come home like, what do you look at? What is this? Why is this such a big deal? I'm gonna sit and watch this. Why is this actually funny, or is he just, is he a fool? And, if
They could be both.
If you were a fool, then I'm the moron here, because I was dying laughing every time I saw an episode with you, and then I thought, okay, I'm gonna watch all this. It's I can't believe it's already 14 seasons. I think 15 is supposed to.
Yeah, 14 seasons. It's been on for a while. I think it's the longest running sitcom as like right now.
And it deserves to be so because how they keep things going after 14 seasons. Given they're only like 10 episodes are like 20 minutes, not even a half hour each. It's still such a great show to get into. If you just kind of want to watch idiots, do each other wrong or just kind of find each other in certain ways, then this is the show for you.
And then it works on a comedy level, and it also works on a commentary level where, they are touching on some like bigger topics, but, it's always, we're all laughing at them and with them. So it presents it in a really interesting way, and I think it gets its point across really well.
Yeah, I love how there's like there's a couple episodes on the whole, gun topic. There's some on like the, transgender in bathrooms, which is like in the recent seasons, which is hilarious. The Me Too movement, there's so much that it touches upon and it dumbs it down. So like if you watch it, you'll kind of have a better understanding of it, in my opinion. And even my dad, that's a show I got him to watch because I would start watching it. And he fell in love with it. But Always Sunny, that is a great one to round off on. Any other shows you want to recommend, or shall I continue the FX shows?
Let's hear what you got, man.
Okay, well I'm gonna start off with the first FX show I really got into, Sons of Anarchy. Actually, you can see my banner behind me in the video. Basically, it's about a NorCal biker gang. It's got Charlie Hunnam, Ron Perlman, J.B. Boone, Kim Coates. It's got so many actors, Drea DiMatteo. And if you've seen Married with Children, oh my God, what's her name again? Kurt Sutter's wife.
I don't know. I don't know people's names.
I'm going to look it up real quick because she's such a great actress, and her name, I can't believe it's slipping me right now. I'm going to look that up. But basically, it's about a biker gang in Northern California and how each member, specifically Charlie Hunnam's character, how he deals with his social life while trying to help the club thrive and survive. It ran on for 7 great seasons. I got it. I started watching, I remember in college around season 4 where a lot of crap starts going down in that show. And actually kind of season 4 was the pinnacle, the climax of the series where it kind of starts setting a lot of things in motion. But yeah, like I said, it's definitely worth watching. It's actually, I feel like one of the shows that made FX what it is. Like it's gotten so much praise and such a following that FX is like, let's keep going. Let's see what else we got.
Yeah, like that's one of the first shows that I remember, putting it on the map, like as in terms of mainstream. Like they've had a lot of other good shows, before that, but I remember that one was like a huge hit for FX.
Yes, and it's Katie Sagal. I can't believe I forgot about that. She's one of my favorite actors from that show. She actually her and Ron Perlman's character actually cause a lot of issues in that show. She plays Charlie Hunnam's mom and Ron Perlman's wife, and she's basically how a biker gang works for the most part. Ron Perlman was the president, the leader of that club. Charlie Hunnam was the vice president, like the second in command, and Katie Sagal, who is Gemma, she is an old lady, as they would say in quotes. His old lady. She was the matriarch of the show. She wasn't, when you're an old lady, you're not necessarily a club member, but, and I know there's a lot of, it takes liberties with biker gangs, obviously, because Kurt Sutter, it's a very Shakespearean story. I will say that much. I don't want to spoil it too much for who haven't seen it. But it's such a good show. It's got some violence to it, decently adult for mainstream television. So it's not like Game of Thrones or, I would definitely not put it as like anything as graphic as like The Boys and stuff. But there's a lot of, it's a lot of gang violence like that you can expect from it. As I said, 7 seasons, 13 episodes each for the most part, and they're all about an hour long. But you get invested in these characters. You want to know what happens. It's got good rewatchability too. So if you ever or even if you've seen it already, I would say rewatch it because every time I watch that, it also just throws another curveball at me just because I remember it all.
That's one I definitely need to jump back onto because I remember watching the first few seasons. I think I got up to like season 3. Before I got taken off of Netflix, and then I just never got around to seeing it again. But now that it's on Hulu, I'll definitely check that one out and finish that series off.
You definitely should, man. I know you were kind of making headway on it, and I understand. There are plenty of shows like Breaking Bad I fell off of for like a year or so, and then I finished that back in college. So because there's so much stuff to watch, it's hard to stay on track with something unless you absolutely love it. So I feel you on that, but let me continue. I will say the next show I really love and one of my all-time favorites for anything is Justified.
Yes.
Yeah, Justified. It's a modern Western where it takes a lot of inspiration from like Western stories, cowboy genre, just because it stars Timothy Olyphant and the amazing Walton Goggins. Got a lot of other solid actors in it, but basically it revolves around them two. Timothy Olyphant, he's the U.S. Marshal who's trying to bring down Walton Goggins, who's basically the big criminal in Kentucky. And he's that one criminal that he always gets into stuff, causes problems, gets big, and he always manages to get away from him. So it's such a crazy show. Every time I rewatch it, I genuinely get surprised every time from like every big twist, just because I get into it really well.
No, I second that. It's a really well done show. Like you said, like if you're looking for something that's like along the lines of a Western, this is a modern Western, so it definitely has those tropes of like the old Western stories, but recontextualized into modern society, which is a really interesting twist on that. So, I mean, if you're looking for some cowboys and gunfights and chases and all that stuff, this will definitely be a show for you.
Yeah, that's all I will say about a lot of the FX shows we're talking about today is that they're all very character driven. So if you're looking for, as we're saying, if you're looking for a good show with great characters and good story, this is one I highly recommend to everybody. And even if you don't like Western, Timothy Olyphant, ladies, you're going to swoon over him. He's a good looking guy. He's got that swagger. He's got the boots. He's got the hat, the hair. I get jealous of him, I'm actually trying to I'm trying to grow my hair out so I can be like him and,
Get yourself a cowboy hat.
by the end of all this, I'm gonna be Timothy Olyphant's brother.
Timothy Olyphant? Oh no, that's just right.
My parents say if I keep acting like I'm gonna be him, keep my fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Oh man. Anyways, another FX show that I really like on Hulu is Mayans MC. Now, if you remember Bern, and for those of you who have seen Sons of Anarchy, just as a reminder and little side note, the Mayans MC was another motorcycle club in Sons of Anarchy. They were like the biggest rivals to Sons of Anarchy, to the Sons, where they would make treaties, break treaties, go against each other, help each other out. So this is a great spin-off. Actually, it's pretty solid to get into. Another strong character-driven show where, features a lot of Hispanic actors. I haven't really, I haven't seen them in a lot of movies in all honesty. Or if I have, I don't remember them off the top of my head, but, it revolves around J.D. Pardo. He's a new actor. He plays this guy who just got out of prison, decides to join the motorcycle club like his brother. So the first season's about him being a prospect, kind of helping the club out while also trying to walk the lines of, the working with the law and helping his dad, who's played by the great, not Diego Luna, what's his name? My God, Edward James Olmos. I don't know why I thought of Diego Luna. They look nothing
Diego Luna.
Maybe that's why I thought about it. But Edward James Olmos is in it. He's very much like Katie Seagal's character, where he's a dad who has experience of that kind of stuff and just tries to help his family out when he can. So if for those of you who have seen Sons of Anarchy and you're looking for a show to kind of continue that urge for you, Mayans is the one to go to. Season 2 is on Hulu as well, which wrapped up this year, late last year. So, you can watch the first 2 seasons and it ties into Sons of Anarchy really well.
Well, that's good to know because, usually with spin-off shows, you never know if it's going to be as good and have the same quality as the original show that it's, spinning off of, or it's just, one of those cheap cash grabs of, the network or the studio just being like, okay, this is brand recognition, we're just going to throw something together. But from what you described, it sounds like they put together a really good show and one that I would definitely check out after I finish up with Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be honest, it is a bit of a cash grab. It's not as good as Sons of Anarchy, but it is pretty dang close. Like I said, if you love the way Sons of Anarchy ends, you'll definitely want to get into Mayans because it'll tie the clubs together a little bit. Kind of goes into the Redwood original, which was Charlie Hunnam's biker gang. It ties into that a little bit, their stories too. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I got to watch season 2 myself, so I need to see how that goes because I was really excited for that to come out.
What else you got, man?
These are not FX shows, nor are they Hulu originals, but I'm gonna kind of just touch up on them. 30 Rock, which is one of my favorite ones, which you should know.
Yes, this is 30 Rock.
That's another show has a lot of rewatchability. It's got Tina Fey, Alec Baldwin, Jack McBayer, who plays Glenn in Ricky Bobby. He plays a lot of weird characters in Will Ferrell's movies. If you'll see it, you'll understand. And Jenna McCrosky, Tracy Morgan, not Tracy Jordan, that's his name in the show, but Tracy Morgan's in it, and it literally it's almost a parody of SNL, where it's a show that takes place at NBC, and oh my God, I can't think of how to properly explain this without giving too much away. But basically, Tina Fey and Alec Baldwin's character, they start out as like a Boston employee, but become friends, and the show just kind of goes on from, their dealings with the show and their personal lives. So
it's like a comedic, over exaggerated look at, what goes on behind the scenes of a lot of these shows that people like to watch. Again, exaggerated, but it's always really, very funny.
Yeah, they're so ridiculous, but if you like ridiculous, stupid, outlandish humor, 30 Rock is a great one. Actually, another NBC related show I'm going to continue off of is going to be Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is like one of my personal favorites as well. Because Andy Samberg, he leads that cast with he's just he's kind of shown to be a great series lead. Basically it's about the 99th precinct in Brooklyn, New York, and it's another situational comedy that I would say rivals Parks and Rec and The Office.
Yeah, to be honest, I would say that it's up there with those couple shows too. I mean, the humor hits, like it's always, like bang bang, with the humor. So, if one doesn't get you, then the next one will. Or maybe you're laughing so hard at the first one you don't get the second one. So, it's always fun to go back and hear things that you didn't hear the first time around. So it's densely packed, in only like 20 something minutes per episode. But
yeah, they're very short.
Your laugh out loud the whole time.
Yeah, I'm glad you got back into it too, because I know for a bit you I will say season 3 it kind of fell off. No, season 4 it kind of fell off a little bit, but in my opinion, it's a show that's made me laugh almost 99% of the episodes. 99. So that's a show I recommend for everybody if you're looking for something like, warm-hearted humor mixed with just idiotic characters. It's definitely worth the watch. It also has, Terry Crews, Andre Boyer. It's got a solid cast to really check out.
I'll bring something to the table too. Like in some shows, there are just certain characters that are either like really annoying or just not as funny as the rest. But I think everyone has a really good comedic time in on the show.
Absolutely. And then the last one I'm going to end my segment off is going to be Key and Peele, just because it's another sketch comedy. Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele are the obviously the leads and the actors, the writers. It's very reminiscent of Chappelle's Show. So if you missed Dave Chappelle's show like I did, I mean he still has stand-ups, but they're not the same as his sketch show was. Then this is definitely a show for you. That you don't have to watch them in order. You can literally pick your favorite episodes and just watch them for the skits because they're pretty hilarious.
I second that. After the Chappelle Show, this is one to definitely watch because I mean there isn't anything else that's out there that's a sketch comedy like the one they do, where you'd have a stand-up section and then they have these really well done skits that you can just quote. You can quote them with people, and that just goes to show how good they are if you just hear people quoting particular sketches in everyday life. So it is up there with the Chappelle Show.
Yeah, if everyone I feel like everyone's had to have seen this. If you've seen The Substitute Teacher with the whole Aaron, Balake, that ridiculous teacher that just shouts out all these weird names, that's what that's from. So because I know there have been a couple people like, I don't know what that's from. What is that? I'm like, it's hilarious. Key and Peele, watch the rest of it because there's more sketches like that. Yeah, like I said, man.
Also cool to see where both Key and Peele got their starts in, where Key has moved on to do a lot of other like acting roles, and Jordan Peele is directing award-winning movies.
Yeah, honestly, going off of that, like before I finish up, yeah, I loved. Some episodes you really see who kind of led what, because there are some episodes that are very reminiscent of Get Out and Us. So there's a lot of you can kind of see how each one does on that. So, like I said, all the shows all these shows in my opinion have the best rewatchability, and they're definitely worth watching at least once or twice.
I agree.
All right, man. Anything else you got for me? You want to talk about on Hulu?
Man, I'll just do just a little quick rundown of some animated shows that are on there. Not going too far into depth with them, but just if you're in the mood for something animated, then, there's shows on the Hulu like Rick and Morty or Samurai Champloo, Cowboy Bebop, One Punch Man, and My Hero Academia.
Yeah, definitely a solid anime. I mean, there's plenty of anime I've watched on there, like Yu Yu Hakusho, Trigun, Rurouni Kenshin, Tokyo Ghoul. But that we'll have to do another episode on just anime across the platforms because they're also such rich stories. I can't nail them down in one take.
Yeah, no, they definitely deserve their own topic because they are pretty dense.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that again, ladies and gentlemen. But that's it for me, Bern. You got anything else?
No, nothing else, man. Just, everybody, be safe, be kind to each other. And we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, man. I appreciate you. Well, the next one, just as a quick little preview, will be we're going to talk about Disney Plus and HBO and our personal favorites off of that. But
That'll
until
wrap up the series of recommendations on streaming platforms.
absolutely, yeah. And then we're just time will tell where else we'll go with it. But like I said, Bern, stay safe up there. Wish you and everybody the best. Until next time, amigo.
And deuces.
Doses. Thank you, everybody. Like and comment, share, subscribe. Please spread the love. That's all we can ask for. Thank you so much.
Adios.
Adios.